Bella Vista Community Television presents The Mayor's Wrap with our host, J.B. Portillo. And now to the studio for our program.
Hello, everybody. I'm not seeing myself on TV, so we're just freelancing here. But welcome, and we're back with the Mayor's Wrap.
Morning.
Hi, Mayor Christie. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Good to be here.
The thing is that I really look forward to knowing what's going on. You always put things in such a nice little summary for everybody.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
So let's get started.
Yes.
What are we going to talk about? The American Rescue Plan first?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
If you remember, the American Rescue Plan is a federal government initiative, and they have given money to each and every county and city across the land, as well as the state. And our portion of it is $5.9 million. So we received the first half or tranche last year, and we will receive the second tranche this year, probably in May or June. We haven't spent any of that money because we did not get official Treasury rules until the end of last year.
Unbelievable.
It is. And basically, the rules now state that if your allocation is less than $10 million, you can spend it any way you want, providing that it's on government projects and that you adhere to the normal procurement process, which is bids, everything else, or bid waivers if need be.
Right.
And so we drew up a list of about 11 projects that we thought might be good ones to consider here. And then we went out and we asked the constituents, what do you think? And we had 77 people reply, which was great.
Uh-huh.
And we had everything from, throw all the money into the streets, which would be nice, but you'd have to have a balance somewhere, to others who just said, basically give it to the POA, but they didn't understand that the city can't give money to the POA. So we still have that perception that they're one and the same, which has always been there, and it's a difficult one to get rid of. So we had our second special council work session last night to talk about this, and it was a really good session, as was the previous one. Lasted for 2.5 hours, and we did something, or I suggested something at the outset that I've seen other cities do. We ran through our legal and ran through the legal at the municipal league, and everybody's blessing it, is instead of just piecing it out like this as part of the ARP disbursement, let's take the full 5.9 and allocate it as a project to covering the police and fire salaries and benefits as much as we can in 2022. Why do we want to do that? There's two reasons. The first is, rather than have to do the very intricate reporting back to the feds on every single project that we have done, we simply report back that we have used the monies for the police and fire salaries and benefits, and so we only have to report once. Mm-hmm. The second is, the money that we have in the budget that we would have spent on this now falls into the fund balance or the cash reserves. So the 5.9 is still there, but it's not under this program anymore. And that gives us the ability to extend further some of these programs if we so desire. The current rules state that you have to obligate the money in 2024, and it must be spent by the end of 2026. One of the projects in particular, which I'll address in a second, is what are we going to do with yard waste? And that is a huge, huge project.
Oh, it is, yes.
And I'll touch base on that a little while. It's very expensive, and also getting the permits from ADEQ, which is the state environmental quality, could be a lengthy process that takes years. So I'll get back to that in a second. So after council agreed to do this, then we asked the lawyer to put together a resolution, and it'll be in front of the council this month for their approval. I then selected 4 projects that seem to be the most desirable and immediate, and I'll take you through them.
Okay.
The first is cybersecurity. We always have to stay ahead of cybersecurity. We have some old photocopiers that are connected to the network, and they're running Windows 7, which isn't supported by Windows anymore. And frankly, it's dangerous to have them on the network.
Do you own those?
Yes.
You own
yeah, we own them.
Okay.
And then we also need to upgrade some of our other equipment that's very old. For example, we have a 911 call recorder. So whenever you call 911, it's being taped. And that's by law. Well, again, the machine we have is very old, and we need to upgrade that because it's sitting on the network as well. Mm-hmm. We also are going to be bringing in some consultants for a couple of years to help us strengthen even further. And why do we want to do this? Because the hackers never give up.
And they're smart.
And they're very, very smart. And yes, we hire professional hackers every year to come in and see if they can get in the network, and they've never been able to. But you can't just do a high five and sit back in your chair and relax. You have to be relentless. This is the business I came out of.
Yes.
And so council agreed that we need to do this. So again, the lawyer is going to pull a resolution together for council this month. The second is street resurfacing. In the budget, we have allocated $2.3 million for this year. It's almost the same as we did last year. And last year we did 89 miles. This year it's 59 miles, of which 22 is asphalt. And the reason for the difference is because we're tackling some of our main streets this time around. And that includes Trafalgar, Chelsea, Hampstead, and down in the Highlands where Rocky Del Hollow is. Mm-hmm. It's very rough down there.
It sure is. There's a bad curve there. And
it took a terrible beating in that freezing weather we had last winter. That, if you remember, it tore 279 to bits.
Yes.
And state had to come in and they had to resurface the whole road. So we want to get that done as well. And we also want to make the turns into Rocky Del Hollow, you know, as you're going over to the bypass, wider.
You don't want me to tip my car over?
No, it's probably not a good idea.
Because I feel like I'm going to every
time. Yes,
it's
a very tight turn. So we want to lengthen that as well.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, I think we can do it for $2.3 million, and then we went out and we got the bids. We need another $1.3 million because the cost of asphalt and slurry, it's all oil-based, has gone through the roof. And you cannot let your roads just sit unattended for a year.
No.
Because they continue to deteriorate. And what we learned from a consultant and a lady who I call the queen of asphalt down at U of A told us back in 2015 was, when your deterioration goes down one step, so it starts out as okay, fair, critical, and lost. So if it moves from one to the other, it'll cost you 6 times the price just to get it back to the previous one, let alone back to green.
Right.
So we can't let them sit idle. So we talked about it last night, and council agreed, let's have a resolution for that in front of council this month as well. The fire training tower contingency for $200,000. When we were looking at the Tudor property, if you remember, mm-hmm. It's a piece that mm-hmm. and we thought we were going to put it down there. We spent about $55,000 in engineering fees, et cetera, to test the land. Is it okay, et cetera, et cetera. And they came back and said, drainage is a huge problem here. It's going to cost $700,000, which is not in the bond.
No.
So we abandoned it, and we're now, in fact, I'll give you a bond update in a few seconds and talk about where the fire training tower is going to be located. But we actually then need $145,000 because we have to build a road from 71 into the new site, which is up near the Missouri border. And we also have to test all that ground too to make sure everything's going to be okay. So council said, yep, that's an immediate need. So let's have a resolution for that as well. And then the final one that is on the short-term list is the employee loyalty incentive program, or maybe an incentive plus a base salary adjustment. And we talked about this for quite some time. At the end of the day, we decided that we would not do a loyalty incentive. Instead, we would do a base salary adjustment of 4%. And that's for basically the non-salaried employee, or the non-salaried employees. And we had been looking at 2 to 3%, and we said, well, if we're not going to do the incentive, and the other cities seem to be hovering around 7%, that 4% is a good place to be, because we've already got 3% built in for the budget, so that brings them up to 7.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, because it is becoming a real problem to keep people. And I've seen this once before in my lifetime, and it turns into a situation where people will jump for 50 cents an hour. And we've now got cities rating cities. And we had a city, I think I may have mentioned this on a previous program, in Northwest Arkansas that decided to beef up its ambulance-based service based on a 1-cent sales tax they had approved. And they were offering much more than the entry level. They offered midpoint, whether you had 4 years or 4 weeks. And so we lost 11 firefighters immediately. We have recovered and we're fine again. But that's the type of employee churn that everybody is seeing, and it's not just the cities. You hear about it in the papers every day. It's becoming very difficult. It used to be that you could offer great benefits and people would say, okay, maybe I'm making a couple of dollars less, but I'm getting great benefits. We still have great benefits, but in this day and age when inflation is rampant, everybody, of course, is concerned, how am I going to put breakfast and other food on the table? So you have discussions, it's called breakfast economics, because your cereal is going up, your milk is going up, and my fuel is going up to be able to go to the grocery store, etc. And so they're very concerned. How much am I going to have at the end of the day for each paycheck? And so, so we decided to do that. So those are the 4 resolutions, 5 with the other one moving everything over to the salaries, that will be in front of council this month.
Remind everybody when the council meeting is. Isn't it the 28th?
The work session is this coming Monday.
Monday, and then the
and then a week from that Monday is the actual session where everything gets voted upon. We then talked about everything else that was on this. A lot of it we said, you know, we'll talk another day, like the restrooms, because we haven't got the Walton Family Foundation buy-in yet on that. And a machine shed for the police to cover some of their equipment. We might be able to cover that just from our normal fund. We did talk about yard waste, and that's a big deal here. So we had 2 possible programs that we were looking at. One is to purchase an air burner, and that's similar to the burners that the company, the POA, hired to put out the stump dump used, where you have a huge, huge bin usually set in the ground, and you load all your yard waste or stumps or whatever in there, and you ignite it using usually kerosene, because you need a very hot fire. And then you have a blower that is blowing across the top of this thing that forces the smoke back down, so it reburns and you get very little smoke in the air. So that was one. It was well over $1 million to purchase it, because you'd have to purchase land as well. And then the ongoing costs would be expensive, because you'd have to hire 2 people to do it. The other thing that we looked at was composting, and Linda Lloyd very kindly did some research for us. She looked at Fayetteville, a place in Maryland, and a place in Vermont, I believe. Most of them have food composting as well as yard waste. And
I'm very familiar with the food composting.
Yeah, so am I.
Yes.
We only want to focus at this point on the yard waste, because that is the most immediate. Nevertheless, it's well over $1 million. And in the Fayetteville operation, it costs them $1 million a year to run it. And then they sell the compost.
It's great compost.
It's great compost, but your revenue stream is $200,000. So you have an $800,000 shortfall.
Yeah.
So we need to find something else quickly. And so Council Member Jerry Snow has offered to lead the charge on that and try and find something else. So it's not over yet, folks. We just have to find the right solution.
Yes.
And so that's basically it for now. You know, as I say, there are other things in here that we're going to address later, but we wanted to get those 5 things settled first, and then get somebody, you know, with eyeballs on the need to do something about the yard waste.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, as always, you're on top of it, or trying to be.
Trying to be, yes.
It's not easy. The bond project, is that, should we take a break first, or will the bond project be pretty quick here?
Yeah, it'll be quick, and then we
all
can
right, let's
continue
do the
on.
bond project update.
Of course, fire station number 3 is finished. The police station is right on cue, and council has actually approved up to $90,000 for a statue outside, which will be a police officer with his canine, and we'll probably have a blind lady of justice thing mounted on the wall as well, because the courtroom is going to be up there.
Oh, yes.
And it'll be well under the $90,000. The fire training tower, I think I may have mentioned that council has approved, I think in a previous session, the purchase of 3 acres of land from Cooper up near the transfer station and the animal shelter. And so the way it sits now is we have put $10,000 down as earnest money, and now we start getting, the same as we did at the previous one, all the engineers going in, okay, we got to test the soil, we have to look for this, that, the other thing, what's the drainage like, and if everything works out okay, then we will close the deal. And at that point, then we will have to build a road in, and then construction will proceed. That'll be the quickest of all 3 to build, and we're hoping that we can get that done before the end of this year as well.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see the fruit of your labor.
It's coming. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, you want to take a quick break?
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back, folks.
We will be right back. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Mayor's Wrap with our host, J.B. Portillo.
Hi there, folks. I've just been cued. There you go. Perfect. I like that when that happens. You know what? We're going to talk about something that so many people have asked me about, and they've been wondering about, and you always know everything, so. Well, you seem to. Maybe it's the 7 years you've been in the seat.
Probably.
But the new RDOT Welcome Center.
Yes.
Where is it going, and what's it going to look like? And I really wish we had pictures.
Yes.
But
I attended a meeting late last week in Rogers with all the stakeholders. The meeting was called together by RDOT, and we had a very good discussion. Everything from architecture, et cetera, to the actual layout. So first of all, it's going to be located at the intersection of 72 and the bypass. It'll be on the west side, I guess. Yes. And it'll be very close to the Mount Pleasant Missionary Baptist Church, if you're familiar with that on 72. It'll be right across the street.
And anybody that's familiar with Damon's Mount Pleasant auto, it's right there too, on the
Okay.
way to grab it.
Yeah, so that's right. It's on the way to grab it.
Yeah.
And it'll be designed so that it's off the highway. It'll have its own ramp from the southbound. If you're going northbound, you'll actually have to ramp off and then cross the bypass and then pull in. It'll have a very nice main building. It'll have separate parking for cars as opposed to the RVs, the semis, and the buses. That'll be on the far side, and the parking will be in the front. There will be areas for picnics, which will be great. It'll be on septic because the city of Gravett doesn't have any sewer up there. And it'll be furnished with Centerton water. Now that may seem odd because it's in the middle of Gravett. However, the water is not governed by city boundaries so much as it is by the old rural boundaries for the water systems that were put in place many, many years ago. And so they do have water, and they'll have sewer facilities. So that's good. The actual architecture is, they were first proposing one that would have sort of that log cabin feel, because that's what they've been doing with all but 2 of the 11 that are in the state, surrounding the outsides on the major highways as people come in. However, they felt that because this is a very unique area, they would be open to suggestions as to other types of architecture that they might want to look at. So I spoke up and said, well, we have a lot of beautiful Fay Jones here. And one of the architects who was chairing the meeting said, yes, I'm a big fan of Fay Jones. And he chimed in. Of course, he did the Thorncrest Chapel on the way to Asylum Springs. And then someone else chimed in and said, we also have wonderful architecture down at Crystal Bridges, which is quite true. And so they took it all in and said, you know what, we will try and design something so that we can incorporate that kind of look into what this building is going to look like in the end. So they, after about a 2.5-hour meeting, are to go away, do their magic on their CAD machine, and then come back, and they'll share with us what they think it might look like.
Okay.
They will probably go for public comment as well. RDOT usually does, which is great. And so it was a really good meeting. It was good to see all the stakeholders there. Everybody you can possibly imagine, was in the room. Gravitt, Bentonville, the Walton Family Foundation, and more. And so stay tuned for more, but at least we know where it's going to be.
And that's a perfect piece of land. I
It is.
drive by there all the time going to Bentonville,
Sure.
and it looks like it was made to go there.
Yep, it's a nice triangle piece of land.
Yeah.
And
Kind of flat.
Kind of flat, yeah.
That's kind of unusual here.
Yes, it is.
But anyway, thank you so much for sharing that,
You're
because
welcome.
people are just like, where's it going to be?
That's right. Well, other people have said, well, what's going to happen to the old one?
And then there's that.
And it has been purchased.
Oh, it has?
Yes, it's been purchased by a company that is purchasing a lot of land on the west side of 71 for, I would imagine, some future development.
And you're not going to tell me, because I can see it
That's
on your
right.
face.
Yeah. I was very interested actually in purchasing it.
I thought you
for
were.
the city.
Yeah.
And so I went to the executive director of RDOT, and I got there too late. They had already clinched the deal with the other company. So, but I'm sure it's going to be very nice. It's a really good location for us, and I'm hoping that the next mayor will be able to influence just how are you going to position it and the advertising and whatnot. So
Sure.
it's a great location.
Is there anything at all you can share with us other than the fact that everybody's also wondering what happened to half of Town Center? It's gone.
Oh, that had been in the works for many years by CCI. If I remember correctly, Acorn Realty and
Vacation Rentals.
Vacation Rentals actually left the building. Gosh, it must be 2 years ago now. And for whatever reason, probably COVID, because they wouldn't be able to get
Right.
the workers and everything. They have finally taken it down, and as they have finally almost taken down the movie theater, I was there this morning, and they're now taking the AC units off the roof, and then they can bring it all down.
Oh, so they are going to bring it all down?
Yeah, no, they're not going to rebuild a
Well,
theater.
but I was thinking, what a beautiful thing for a farmer's market, under the.
The problem with that location for the farmers market, which it was actually the vendors themselves who told us, is there's no visibility from Highway 71. It's too low. And so you have to try and either through advertising get people to come in, or have billboards out along 71, which they tried and the wind kept knocking them down and everything else. So one of the things that I'm going to mention is the dates.
Yeah, let's start that. Let's talk about what's coming up.
Well, since we're talking farmers market, it's going to be held again over in Lancashire, where the city has its planning office and the court.
And
Duffers is in there. And it'll start on April 24th through to October 30th, and it'll run as usual from 9 till 2. And if you're interested at all or you have some questions, you can email to farmersmarket@VistaAR.gov. But April 24th until October 30th, up in the big parking lot at Duffers area.
Yeah, that was a great place last year.
Well, it's got lots of visibility
It
because
does.
you know the 340 or Lancashire is right there, and this is just slightly elevated above.
Yes.
As opposed to the other one, which is like this.
Yes.
So it'll work.
Yes.
We have a big thing coming up on March the 21st. That's Arbor Day. And of course, we are a Tree USA city. And so it might seem a bit like bringing coals to Newcastle, but we do plant trees.
Yes.
However, we don't plant oak trees, of which we have a plenty.
And hickories.
And hickories. We're actually going to be planting 2 sycamore trees. And that'll be right behind the premier Dermatology off Riorden. And it'll start, I believe it's starting at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Please don't park on Riorden. It's a very, very busy road. You can park, actually the safest place is up by the trailhead on Kingsdale. You know, the large parking lot for access to both Kingsdale and Birksdale and Papa Mike's. There is a trail that you can take called Tunnel Vision, which is right off that parking lot. And it's a very, very pretty walk, and it'll take you right over to Premier. And you can walk in and join us for the tree planting.
It's too bad that the tunnel and everything isn't finished under the road.
Yeah, we are planning a tunnel
Yeah.
that'll go underneath Riorden because the current crossover is a little too dangerous.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it won't be ready yet.
Okay. What else we got going on?
March the 26th, our friends over at Positively Bella Vista, thank you very much for those folks,
Yes.
are doing their annual 6 and 60. So what that means is 6 miles of Highway 71, which is basically from County Road 40 up to the Missouri border, clean it up in 60 minutes. And
You know,
so-
I've participated in that before. You can't even, well, you can. The stuff people
oh yes,
throw out.
oh, it's amazing.
I mean, some of them would take a crane to get things. You can't put it in a bag, is what
No,
I'm trying to
no.
say.
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
we've had furniture.
Yeah.
And so we tell this crew, you know, if you see furniture, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Just tell us where it is, and we'll send a crew in, primarily because if you move it, there may be snakes underneath it. So,
Ew, right.
So I have noticed, though, that since the bypass has gone through, the garbage isn't as bad as it used to be.
True.
But there still is garbage. And it usually takes longer than 60 minutes, but it's a lot of fun. It starts at Allen's at 10 o'clock, and everybody will be allocated a section of the highway. And we supply all the bags and everything else.
Yeah.
And if it's true to form, usually Mr. Morrow over at Allen's will bring out the hot dogs and the buns, and you know, we'll have a cookout as well.
Yeah.
For all the volunteers. So if you're interested in it, please, on the 26th, hop over to Allen's at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we'll make sure that you get a section of the highway. On March the 29th, the ever-popular Citizens Police Academy will start. It'll run for 10 weeks every Tuesday from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. If you're interested in adding your name to the waiting list, or even sign up for the Fall Academy, because we do it twice a year. The Fall Academy usually starts in September. You can contact Officer Heavans, and her email address is HEVANS, so H. Evans.
I think it's on the screen too. Yes.
There it is.
Yes.
At VistaAR.gov. But sign up early because we usually have about 16 seats and that's it. And it is very, very popular.
Whoever this is really wants to talk to me. I'm so sorry.
On March the 30th, the Police Department Explorer program is hosting an open house from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. over at the police station. This program is designed for 6th graders up to those 20 years of age who are interested in a career in law enforcement or criminal justice. And I had a grandson go through it. He loved it. And they show them everything. how the detectives work, and they actually take them out to the field where the craft fair is, and they'll put stuff on the ground so that they can pretend that they're working some kind of criminal, site, and show them how to collect the evidence and all this kind of stuff. And then they get to spend some time with the canines as well, and that's always popular. So if you have a child at home, 6th grade up to the age of 20, who might be interested in this, then again, it's March the 30th. It's called the Explorer Program, and it'll run from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. as an open house. On March the 31st, the library at 5 p.m., we're going to unveil a bronze sculpture entitled On Top of It by local artist Susan Blackwood. So the city has actually purchased this to put it into the library. If you've been into the new children's section, it's delightful. And they have sculptors already of 2 children sort of lying on their stomachs, looking at this, and they've got a book in front of them. Have you seen those?
No, I haven't
Oh,
yet.
yeah. They've been there for years.
Yeah.
And so we thought this might be kind of fun as well. It's it looks like a big boulder about the size of this, and there's a child sitting on top that's also sculpted out of brass, and hence On Top of It.
Oh.
And Susan Blackwood is a local artist. We just celebrated her as the Artist of the Month last month.
Oh, she's fabulous.
Yeah, she does great work. And so does her husband. He's also a very acclaimed artist. So that's happening March the 31st at the library at 5 p.m. Also on March 31st at 10 o'clock in the morning, the groundbreaking for the new Mercy Way Bridge at long last.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
They're going to start construction in mid-April of this year, and hopefully it'll be finished by mid-May of next year. The groundbreaking will be at the corner of Mercy Way and the Sugar Creek Center where Allen's is located. There's a little pie-shaped piece of land that we have purchased the easement for, and we'll host it there. Yeah, this has been a labor of love going back to Frank Anderson when he was mayor, and 8 years of planning. But it's finally going to happen.
That's excellent. It's kind of like the bypass, right?
That's right. We have a number of things happening in April, some of which we can actually talk about next month. There is one in early April which will happen before we have our next mayor's wrap.
Yeah.
And that's April 4 to the 8th. It's a white goods pickup, and we have it every year. It's part of our contract with Republic. There is a deadline to sign up. If you have something that you want them to pick up, like a washer or dryer, sign up by 12 noon, March 31st. That's the cutoff. And there's 2 ways to sign up. You can do email. Is it on the bottom? No, I don't see it. It's appliance@VistaAR.gov. Appliance@VistaAR.gov. Or you can call 479-876-1255, which is the main City Hall number, and select option 7. And someone will answer the phone and get you booked and give you a date.
All of these are also on your city website, correct, these dates?
Yes, they are, and
Okay.
there have been press releases for all of these as well.
Okay, good.
This year, there will be no refrigeration units, so don't put a fridge out or a freezer out. All items have to be placed by the curb by 6 o'clock in the morning on April the 4th, regardless of the day that you have been given. So if you've been given the 8th, still put it out on the 4th, because sometimes if they have spare capacity, they'll start at another street that's for the next day or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm glad that's happening. Kudos to Republic for working with us once again. And then, of course, we mentioned the farmers market.
Yes. Lots going on.
Yeah, there is. It's that time, spring.
Yeah. Well, anything else we need to say before we sign off today?
I don't think so.
Come to the city council meeting.
Yeah,
Why
by
not?
all means. Yeah.
They're kind of fun.
It's
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
But seriously, I'm really impressed lately with the input from the public we've had at the Planning Commission, at the council meetings. And it's important, folks, for you to come out there and be heard.
That's right. We had a great turnout last Thursday for public feedback on the short-term rentals.
Yes.
Which is the Airbnbs, which is a problem.
Yes.
And it was interesting because about half the group was against, the other half was for, and it was like being back in former days where we could have good constructive discussion without somebody losing it.
Right,
Which
right.
doesn't seem to be the case much anymore, but thank God it's Bella Vista. We all keep our heads, on a good level set. And we had some really good discussion, got a lot of great feedback. Doug Fowler, who's on council, is leading the charge on putting together an ordinance to address it. And he hopes to have it in front of council in May or June.
That's great. I think we estimated, I heard this the other day, about 99 people showed up, over the period of the time frame.
I went there and I was delighted that all the cars in the parking lot, and I walked in and the courthouse was full.
Yeah.
And max capacity there, I think, is 95,
Yeah.
according to the fire marshal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all of you that came out, thanks very much. It was greatly
You
appreciated.
bet. Okay, well, I will, of course, see you next month.
We will.
And keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll see you soon, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for watching The Mayor's Rep, presented by Bella Vista Community Television Association.